Jesus said in the second half of John 10:10, I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly, to the fullest, to the best. Climate change is real. Welcome to my YouTube channel, One Race, the Human Race, All Human. Today is Saturday, July 17th, 2021.
The effects of climate change are before us and look like an apocalyptic nightmare. In Western Europe, floods not seen in hundreds of years have killed more than 100 people, destroying ancient towns and cities. In the western U.S., there's high heat in the forecast as fires burn through areas larger than some states. Take the Bootleg Fire in Oregon, for instance, which burns areas larger than Central Park each hour. It is so hot in California that officials there are warning the heat could kill nearly all of the salmon in the Sacramento River. What were once exceptional, once-in-a-lifetime events are now normal, making clear the denial phase of climate change over. Joining me now, Dr. Ziana Elizabeth Johnson and Catherine Wilkinson. They are the co-founders of the All You Can Save project and co-authors of the book, All We Can Save, Truth, Courage, and Solutions for the Climate Crisis, which is now available in paperback, so go out and get that now. Dr. Johnson, these images we're seeing out of Western Europe of severe flooding, the ones from the Western U.S., the fires ripping through areas larger than some U.S. states, I both wonder how they are connected and how common they are going to become.
I don't think anyone really expected it to all be shifting this dramatically, this quickly. Right. I think a lot of us have been expecting this, but the way it's all crashing down right now has even scientists who've been studying this a little bit like, oh, wow, okay, it's here now. And so the question is, what are we going to do about it now that we have people's attention, now that it's clear that the climate crisis is coming for all of us, right? If Germany, with its renowned infrastructure, can't handle these changes, if the Western U.S. Is on fire, if we have droughts and floods and hurricanes and all of it, the question is, what do we do, and how do we get more and more people to feel welcomed into this work and finding their roles? And that is what Catherine and I have been working on through this book, All We Can Save, which is an anthology of essays by 40 women who are climate leaders, talking about their work and the lessons there and ways people can be part of climate solutions.
And I do want to ask you about how you bring more women, how you bring more communities of color into this conversation. But I also got to say, Dr. Wilkinson, it seems like we moved pretty rapidly from talking about climate change as like this thing that was out there that was going to happen, that we're going to see the effects of one day, to already talking about just how we begin to build our lives around this reality. How should people be thinking about this?
Well, the subtitle of the book is Truth, Courage, and Solutions. And I think that's a really helpful trifecta for people to hold, because the truth is, you're absolutely right. Climate crisis is here. It's now. It's impacting lives and communities. We have to figure out how we're going to live with that and take care of one another. But we've also got to figure out how we're going to address the root causes, namely to transition from the fossil fuel economy. And that means we've got to be thinking about more than reusable grocery bags and changing our light bulbs. We need to be thinking about big investments from the government at the scale of the crisis. And that's why if folks are asking the question that so many people are of what can I do? Right now, one of the best things you can do in this country is go to callforclimate.com, and it'll walk you through calling your senators and asking them to support a big, bold climate bill this summer. That is the most critical solution on the table right now.
I mean, Dr. Johnson, there were a lot of people we could have talked to for this segment. The reason that I wanted to talk to you and I wanted to talk to Dr. Wilkinson is because you were focused on just that. Because I think it is easy to see these images and say, I am so freaked out that I just want to look away. And that is the last thing that we can afford to do. So to come back to the title of your book, to the work that both of you have been doing, how do you bring more women and how do you bring more communities of color into this work?
I think the really important fact to start with is that people of color actually already care more about the climate crisis. They're more concerned. Per polling data from Yale and George Mason universities, it's about 49% of white Americans who are concerned, compared to 57% of Black Americans and 70% of Latinx Americans. So if we're talking about engaging people, it makes perfect sense to engage people who already are concerned about the issue. The percentage of Americans that are outright climate deniers is a single digit. So we can just basically charge ahead without them at this point. We're seeing these images. We know that we can't wait to have endless conversations about it. As Catherine said, this is a moment for bold transformation. This is a moment where we need the full ingenuity and creativity and wisdom of humanity at the table. And for the last few decades, for the last 35 or so years, since we've known very clearly what burning fossil fuels was going to do to this planet, we've had the public discourse led by a fairly small group of white men who have done good work, many of them, but will never represent the full spectrum of solutions and creativity and opportunities and ways in which we're going to have to do this work, right? Because this has to be transformation in every place. Every single place on the globe is being impacted in different ways. It's going to have to be every sector, right? We're talking about energy and transportation and agriculture and land use and buildings and manufacturing. All of that needs to shift from fossil fuel based to some form of a regenerative economy. And so to think that we could do that without people of color, to think that we could somehow make this transformation without women is just absurd. And for women in particular, Catherine and I have been using this book, this anthology of essays and poems and art by women who are leading on climate, to instigate this conversation, to say, like, look at all of these leaders we're missing. Look at all of this wisdom that's been out there waiting for us to take heed. And it's so important in this moment to focus on solutions and not just sit in the shock of what's happening in the world. So as Catherine said, on the policy table right now, there's a huge opportunity for Congress through not just the infrastructure bill, but through reconciliation to pass the largest climate policy that has ever been passed in the U.S. And if you go to call4climate, the number 4.com, they'll have information on how you can reach out to your representatives. That's super simple. And that's what we need right now. We need our government to lead.
Doctors Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson and Catherine Wilkinson, I have been thoroughly depressed about all this, and you have given me the first glimmer of hope that I've heard in a long time. As a reminder, the paperback version of their book, All We Can Save, Truth, Courage, and Solutions for the Climate Crisis, comes out on July 20th. That's all the time I have for today. I am Alicia Menendez. I'm going to see you back here tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern for more American Voices. But for now, I hand it over to my colleague, Joshua Johnson. Hey, Joshua.
The Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and we must care for this earth. Let's support the program of Senator Bernie Sanders for the CCC program and other climate change programs that will help save our planet.